AutoChamp Wandelen here, and right next to me is the Omoda 9. Let's face the truth, everyone. Plug-in hybrid vehicles these days are becoming so expensive. Some car manufacturers are expecting you to appreciate their plug-in hybrids only because of their badge or because of their reputation. But today, it's not enough to just have the badge or to have the reputation. Now, you really need the equipment. So make sure to watch this video till the end and don't forget to push the subscribe button. Right, let's get on with this review right now. Now, when it comes to technology, the Chinese car manufacturers have been progressing a lot, especially manufacturers like BYD, Hongqi, you name it, especially in terms of value for money. But this car has some awesome looking running lights. Like, look at them. This one has a lot of animation to it. The last time I saw an animation like this was on the Atomium, guys, or even on the Paris Eiffel Tower. This is how cool it is. And then at the same time, for the rest, the design is very interesting, although when it comes to Chinese car manufacturers, they tend to have a bit of an identity crisis, because when I looked at the side of it, I literally thought it was a Lexus RX for a second. And from this angle, it looks as if they drew some inspiration from the DS automobiles. And I wonder what's with the fake air vent over here. This particular Omoda 9 costs 52 to 53,000 euros. It's already quite a rare model, especially when it looks good and it's quite well equipped. You get a 360-degree parking camera. Can you believe that? Towards the side, I see a little bit of a problem. As I mentioned earlier, it had me thinking of a Lexus RX, everyone, especially towards the rear over here. There's this Lexus RX vibe, I think. For all four doors, you get those pop-out door handles. Now, the door is very smooth. There's no particular sound to it or anything. It's a bit fluffy. The door handle, just be careful with it. Yeah, it sounds like I'm closing the door of a fridge. Towards the rear doors, things get a bit interesting. Look at this. It's like I just can't really tell if it's closed or not. There's just something about the sound that has me thinking it's still ajar, that I need to slam it closed. You see? Now, I must say that Chinese car manufacturers deserve credit for having the best value for money, especially in terms of equipment. I mean, look at this. You get two sporty looking exhausts down there, which brings me down to a little bit of a problem. For this Omoda 9, one moment you're looking at what looks like a nice looking city-friendly SUV. Next moment, you're looking at what looks like it came from a sports car. Like, why do you have those proud-looking twin exhausts on both sides? They look pleasant, but at the same time, they just seem a bit out of place. Chinese car manufacturers tend to mix themes up, and I had the same thing to say about MG and certain BYD models. Now, I've been around many vehicles, and I have to wonder, why do you have these huge red reflectors over here? Usually, car manufacturers put small red reflectors on the side down there or at a discrete location, but the fact that they're put over here gives the implication that it's supposed to be a rear light or something. Now it's time to check out the interior of this Omoda 9, and it's already very exciting because I just opened the door and I see what looks like seats that come from a Maybach, and the interior does look like something from an ultra luxury car manufacturer, guys. So this is how cool it is. Let's take a look at it together. So this is the thing about the interior. It's very nice. I like how you get this whole area that cocoons you. But first, I would like to adjust the seats. So I need to work my way around the interior a bit. There it is. So it's just like a Mercedes. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm under the impression that there are certain Mercedes components being used on this Omoda 9, because when I heard the bell, like when you lock or unlock the vehicle, there's this beep, beep, there's the sound of the horn. Like, let's listen to this. Something about the tone of the sound is very similar to Mercedes. I can confirm. And then those seating adjustments onto the door, they look so alike what I've seen on Mercedes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Mercedes components being used. I mean, it's part of cost cutting, and this is good, actually. This is good because at least unlike Mercedes, Omoda doesn't have a huge tablet over here to control everything. Instead, they've kind of gone down the similar route as Audi to have a sort of screen like this. So you have your digital instrument cluster, and then you have your infotainment system over there. But I think there's no mouse or no swivel wheel over here. You have this beautiful trim over here, but you are going to be forced to stretch your arm and touch the infotainment system So I'll have to navigate around the infotainment system myself. So, and then another thing to note about the infotainment system is that, like Hyundai and Kia, sort of, it's all very horizontal. So there's a trim over here, looks nice. You got a shutter with 2 cup holders over here, and those 2 cup holders are adjustable. You can even remove them. This is how good it is. Now you get those 2 storage spaces over here, but the way you have the button over here and then these storage space, they kind of remind me of the Mercedes S-Class in the 2010s, like from the mid 2010s till the early 2020s, that S-Class. So it's again quite interesting. And then you get a wireless telephone recharge just right here. And then another disadvantage of putting the button right here to open this is that my elbow just accidentally opened the center. See this? So again, sometimes I've noticed this about Chinese car manufacturers. They tend to put certain things at not so good locations. The steering wheel is very nice. You get squeegee leather, which is with some soft touch buttons, very similar to what I've seen in Range Rover, by the way. So it's very nice. Piano black everywhere on the steering wheel. That's good. Again, window buttons look suspiciously like what I've seen in Mercedes. And your transmission is right here onto the steering wheel, guys. What kind of sound system do you get? Because the sound system looks quite fancy from where I'm sitting, but if I get a closer look, maybe I'll be able to know what it is. Oh, it's a Sony sound system. You guys get a Sony sound system, but the fact that you have this, it's standing up there like that, like a canopy, has me thinking of Bang & Olufsen a bit. But hey, Sony sound systems are amazing. Now let's look at the infotainment system together. Please note that there's a potential. This vehicle is probably in showroom mode, so there's some functions that don't seem to be working. I keep clicking navigation, but it's not showing me anything. So again, I'm just thinking it's probably because it's in showroom mode, but I like the display so far. Now there's just something about the display here that looks a little bit dated. It looks like something I've seen in a vehicle of the 2000s. It looks like something I've seen in a vehicle of the late 2009s. It kind of reminds me of my Nissan Navara, because in my Nissan Navara I have a similar display with a similar quality like this. So it's you know, whereas when you go inside BMW or Mercedes or even the Volkswagen group cars, they have a more modernized display, like something that looks very much up to date, guys. So when it comes to the infotainment system here, it's a bit confusing. I don't know if I was on the main menu. So it seems like you get only one page. So let's see. Let's say I'm going to click on settings. Okay. I get the impression there's perhaps a nanosecond of lag. It's not very responsive, but it gets the job done. That's the positive news. And again, you see, it's very horizontal, as I mentioned earlier. Now, please note that whenever you want to start your vehicle, it's a bit similar to what you've seen in Volkswagen Group cars. You have to push the brake. Well, make sure, first of all, the key's inside the vehicle. Push the brake, and then you'll see your instrument cluster will liven up, and your steering wheel will become something that can move. Let's see now if the mapping works. Again, it's perhaps not going to, because again, as I mentioned, showroom mode, right? So let's see what it's like when we do the reverse. So when we do reverse, the wing mirrors will adjust itself to the driver's position, I guess. And then over here, you get 4 views. This is very nice. And let's see the side view. You can even select which view you want to prioritize. This is how good it is. So this is great. This is great. And we can even have a closer view at the front or at the rear. Put it back into drive. Or actually, let's put it in park. To put it in park, just put this. Now, when it comes to parking brakes, I don't see any parking brake anywhere, but I think it's automatically engaged when you engage the park on the transmission. Now, over here are swivel wheels. You can choose different driving modes. You can even get all-terrain mode, which is... Mode. Yeah. Mode. Oh, whoa. Calm down. I haven't finished. And then here, this is the temperature for climate control. And then over there is for the intensity of your climate control. Now, this is a dual zone climate control. The passenger can intervene and decide their desired temperature. But this means everyone has to keep touching the screen. And you do get a sunroof, everyone. Now, many of you are wondering, how do you turn off the vehicle? Well, I think if you climb out of the vehicle, that's when it automatically turns off, because it assumes the driver is out of the vehicle. And as you can see, the steering wheel is now back to being firm. But for further information in this regard, please contact your local Omoda dealership and ask them for information because I might be wrong about this. So I highly advise you guys check out with your local Omoda dealership and see what you should do in certain situations. Now it's time to check out the rear seats of this Omoda 9. You know, I was actually this close to calling it a Maybach because for some reason you get Maybach style rear seats. I mean, look at the stitching details. I saw this in a Mercedes or in a Maybach lately, so this is great. Now, the entrance is very good. Oh, wow. This is like sitting on a sofa. It was a bit embarrassing how it took me almost a minute to figure out where the seating control, the seating adjustment was. I actually thought it was on the seat, but it was actually just like a Mercedes onto the door. And for the rear seat passengers, you also get it onto the door, which is good. And you can actually adjust to your seat. Although if you adjust on this side of the seat, you're adjusting the seatings for the middle passenger right here. So just make sure they're okay with your configuration setup. Now you get now you get two cup holders over here with this armrest. Now the armrest is rather squidgy. That's nice. Oh my gosh, those are one of the best headrests ever. And then I look at this area and I see what looks like something I'd expect to see in a Mercedes, but this is great. Take a look at the boot space of this Omoda 9. So the button is right over here, or you can open it from the key fob. This is, you can choose either way. Now, one thing to note is that despite the huge size of the vehicle, there's a lot of height, I just noticed. It's all the way until here, almost until my hip, guys. So maybe this is something questionable, or maybe this is not really something to question. I really don't know, but in my opinion, I've seen competitors which have a bit lower boot lip so that it's easy to load luggages in and out. The body paint sticks out quite proudly, so this is something you just have to watch out for. Otherwise, the floor is not exactly adjustable, but you do get a little bit of storage space in there, especially for your plug-in wires. And that's about it. There's no smart feature. I don't see any 12-volt socket anywhere. And there's not a single tether point, guys. No tether point. So if you are looking for practicality, this vehicle is a bit behind compared to competitors from the Volkswagen group and perhaps Stellantis. Now, speaking of competitors, the closest competitor I can actually think of would be the BYD Seal. Now, I don't know if it's the Seal or the Seal U, but I know very well that it's a crossover SUV. And there's a difference because the Seal U, or I think it's the Seal, one of them is actually a plug-in hybrid or just hybrid, and another one is a fully electric version. So I don't know which one is which, but I know for sure that the plug-in hybrid one would definitely compete against this bad boy. Although one of them costs around 42,000 euros, and that's 10,000 euros cheaper than this bad boy over here. But let's face it, this bad boy over here looks quite stylish, which brings me down to other established players. From the Volkswagen group, already they have the quality on their side. They have a very strong identity. But the biggest problem I find with the Volkswagen group is that their vehicles can be a bit expensive compared to this, because for 52,000 euros, I only can think of the Volkswagen ID3, which is electric. And then when it comes to plug-in hybrid technology, well, when it comes to hybrid technology or plug-in hybrids, the Volkswagen group introduced it to their mass market vehicles quite late compared to Japanese competitors like Toyota. Toyota was actually the first one to introduce hybrid technology to their mass market vehicles, but they didn't, well, when it came to plug-in hybrids, it is true they were a bit late, especially with the plug-in hybrid Toyota RAV4, which is potentially a competitor against this bad boy over here. Now, the Toyota RAV4 plug-in hybrid perhaps only has one advantage, that is, it's an established player. It's been around for many, many decades. So we know the Toyota RAV4 is proven, whereas this player is very new here in Belgium. So nobody really knows what it's going to be like, what life will be like with this Omoda 9. Whereas with the Toyota RAV4, everybody can kind of expect some things, right? But then at the other side of the scale, the Toyota RAV4 looks budget. It looks boring. You can definitely tell it's not exactly something that's going to radiate status. This bad boy, on the other hand, you can kind of trick people into believing you just bought something worth more than 100,000 euros, quite literally. So here's my conclusion of the Omoda 9. For me, this has to be one of the best plug-in hybrids SUV of 50 to 60,000 euros I've ever reviewed. This particular Omoda 9 costs 52 to 53,000 euros, but in the price range between 50 to 60, I think it's one of the best I've ever seen. Very well equipped. In fact, quite well equipped to a point where it had some items from the premium segment. It's quite rare that car manufacturers of today are actually this generous. Me personally, do I like this Omoda 9? I think I do actually, because you're looking at a price of 50 to 60,000 euros. So you're not exactly looking at status, because for me, real status starts at a price from 80,000 euros. Or maybe 60, but that depends entirely on what's the context, what's the objective, what vehicle are you looking at? Because when it comes to the premium segment, or when it comes to segments or any vehicle, there's always one car manufacturer that specializes in it over another car manufacturer. So a brief example, Mercedes was born from trucks and limousines, so therefore today Mercedes makes the best trucks today, when compared to other truck manufacturers. Now, one of the best, okay? I'm not trying to say they're perfect, but they just make one of the best. Chinese car manufacturers, on the other hand, they never really had a solid foundation. They only saw what other car manufacturers have done, and then they thought that they could try doing something too. They were quite successful in it, everyone, because the only difference is that the Chinese car manufacturers may do what the other car manufacturers have done, but they tend to do it better. So whether it means better reliability, or better value for money, and sometimes more stylish, guys. So when it comes to this Omoda 9, I was actually quite impressed with how the interior very much had this Maybach feel to it. And it's quite funny I keep saying Maybach, because I could sense there were some Mercedes components involved. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but then again, it sounds very alike, right? And they look alike. Check the link in the description of the competitors I've mentioned of this Omoda 9. These links will bring you to my other YouTube videos of the competitors, where I express my perspective of the vehicle. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below sharing me your thoughts of this Omoda 9. I'll be releasing more car reviews on YouTube, and let me know if you have any car that you want me to check out. If you have any vehicle in mind, please write it down in the comment section, let me know, and I'll express my perspective of it as well. All right, I'll see you all next time.